Hello everyone, welcome back to Connect the Conversation. I'm your host, Sebastian again, and I'm glad you could join us for another episode. Today we're going to be talking about misinformation again. We'll be talking about that for the last couple episodes, but now we're going to be adding an aspect that affects everyone who literally just scrolls, datification, and how it shapes the way misinformation spreads. So today's episode is correctly titled Behind the Numbers, Misinformation in the Age of Datification. And to help me unpack all of this, I've invited my good friend Vanessa, who I met in Seattle. She studies accounting here, but she knows a lot about this topic.
Yes, hi Seb, thank you so much for having me. I actually love this topic, and honestly I feel like the more you learn about how data works behind the scenes, the more you realize how much it actually, algorithms influence the way that we believe.
Yeah, no, totally. And thank you for giving us the time of being here. And we also saw this in Seattle, by the way. So before we jump into the examples and all of the information we gathered for you, let's just break down some key terms. So first of all, datification. What does it mean? It's basically how data or the internet turns our online behavior, or what we like, what we share, what we comment, what we view for more than 1 second, into measurable and quantitative data. And in this episode, we're going to be connecting this with the concept of critical datification, which means questioning how the data is interpreted and what assumptions go into it.
Right. Critical datification reminds us that algorithms don't really see the truth, they see more like patterns. They recognize them, and these patterns come from us, which are the ones that you already mentioned, yeah. And our reactions shape the way that the system actually thinks that we want. And therefore, this tends to affect what we see on the internet.
Yeah, no, totally. It's how we shape our algorithm. And talking about algorithm, that's one of the key terms. It's basically the system deciding what shows up in our feed. Another key term that relates to this is engagement rate, which is just basically how much people interact with a post, whether it's by what I already mentioned, right? By a like, a comment, staring at it for more than 5 seconds, all of that.
Yes, and also some other key words are analytics, which are tools that measure and interpret our behavior online, and then also biases, which are when algorithms favor certain types of content, usually emotional or sensational, because it performs better.
Yes, that happens a lot. My own TikTok gives me biased information depending on what I want to see. So now we're going to connect this to misinformation, and this is where things get very interesting, trust me guys. So datification doesn't measure the truth. It only measures engagement. And fake news under this concept often spread a lot because they tend to be a lot more dramatic or emotional, which gets a lot more engagement. So because of the engagement it got, it spreads a lot faster.
Exactly. And the algorithm rewards whatever gets the most engagement by creating more engagement, which means misinformation can spread faster than verified content.
Yeah.
Because it creates more reactions.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole cycle. So that's why in this episode, we're going to be comparing what people say they do online versus what their actual behavior shows. And so to unpack this, we actually conducted some interviews and surveys with the students here at SETI. So thank you everyone who participated. So first of all, we did the interviews. It was just a small questions like, how do you react to posts you disagree with? Does high engagement make something feel more true? Or do you think you can recognize fake news? So yes, we conducted these interviews and we're going to put some short clips of them so you know what they responded, and then we're going to be analyzing it. Do you think you can easily identify fake content from real content?
Nowadays, I think in the majority, yes, but not 100% sure.
Does high engagement, like more likes, more views, more comments, make something feel more true?
That's a good question. So definitely it can feel more truth, even though definitely it doesn't justify if it's true or not. But for a regular normal user, for someone to have a lot of likes, it may give the illusion that the person has some authority.
How do you react to posts you disagree with?
Well, even though I try to ignore them, I do see them very often, even if I just click on it once.
How confident are you in your ability to differentiate fake information from real information?
I feel pretty confident, but I still see a lot of fake information from real information.
What do you see more of? Real information or fake information?
Well, I'm starting to see more fake news, and I realize that they have more likes and comments.
Something that really interesting showed up is that almost everyone said that they feel pretty confident spotting misinformation and that they trust their instincts, that they think that they can tell what's fake and what's real. And honestly, most of the time, they can.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of paradoxical because, yes, they told us that they can identify false information, but regardless, they still tend to act strongly to this fake or exaggerated content, or basically just content that they disagree the most with. So even though people, or students in this case, because those are the ones who we interviewed, can and have the means to identify fake from truth, because of the algorithm and like shock value, they still engage a lot more with fake content, which, as we already mentioned, gets more engagement, and then the algorithm feeds it a lot more.
Exactly. And this is where the part where the datification part kicks in, because every reaction, every like, every comment, every share, even the negative reactions becomes data. And data is what the algorithm actually uses to decide what gets shown more.
Yeah, so in this way, they're accidentally training the algorithm into then spreading a lot more misinformation.
Yes, which often includes misinformation like fake news and other stuff. Not because they believe it, but because they react to it emotionally.
Yeah, and then moving on to the surveys, to understand like this topic a lot better, we did a survey through Google Forms. Over 30 people responded, so thanks everyone who actually took the time to respond to the survey. We really appreciated it. And these questions were meant to see how students react to this information and if datification shapes those reactions. So we're just going to go over some of the key questions. We can also link the survey so you can watch all the questions. But the first two were, when you see a news post that you agree with, how strongly do you react? And on the other hand, when you see a news post that you disagree with, how strongly do you react? So for the first one, the one that you agree with, responses were mixed. But most people don't react very strongly to posts they agree with. But in contrast, around 63% react strongly to posts they don't agree with.
Which already tells us a lot. Fake or exaggerated content, like posts, tend to get more engagement because they trigger something stronger, emotional.
Yes, totally, man.
The next two questions were, do you tend to like, comment, or share posts you personally relate to? And before reacting to a news post, how often do you stop to think if it may be misleading or false? Most people do engage with posts they relate to. About 20% of the people rarely do. So those interactions also become data. But even with that, fake news still seem to get more engagement overall. The good news is that around 86% of people say that they pause to check if news is actually true or not.
Yeah, and even in the survey, most people answer that they are at least somewhat confident in differentiating fake from truth. But it just goes to show how fake or dramatic posts attract a lot more attention. Even if the people have the means or the digital literacy to differentiate them, it's not always going to be showed the most. And then the last set of questions, again, there is a lot more, but these are just some that we want to highlight, are this high engagement, like likes, shares, or views, make a post seem more trustworthy to you? And then the other one was, do you think fake news receives more engagement than real news? So for the first one, about 60% of people said that high engagement does influence how trustworthy a post feels, while around 15% said that high engagement makes them more suspicious. The rest weren't really influenced by it. And for the last question, everyone answered somewhere above probably, meaning that all of the students we surveyed, they all think the fake news get a lot more attention than the real posts, even if the degree might vary. I mean, it just shows how people perceive fake news.
Yeah, the majority. And this is actually really interesting because even if people can tell when it is fake or when it's true, they still recognize that high interactive content tends to be more engaged, and it tends to be shown more.
Yeah, totally, just because of the algorithm we have. And then if we want to connect the surveys and the interviews, which again, thanks to everyone who participated, we noticed the same pattern in both of the results we gathered. Students say they're good at recognizing misinformation, but they still react way more to the posts they disagree with or to fake and disingenuous posts.
And because these interactions turn into data, the algorithm interprets it as if it was interesting, more interesting content. And then it keeps showing to more people and it's more dramatic, more exaggerated content. And it tends to be misleading.
Yeah, and then it becomes a loop. First you react to it, even if your reaction is a comment saying, hey, this is not true, you still reacted, and the algorithm learned from it. So now you're getting more of it, and then you react again. And it's basically a never-ending cycle of just spreading misinformation.
Totally. And datification doesn't just measure like the behavior, it shapes it. Even careful users can end up stuck in a feed full or fake or emotional content simply because that's what triggers like the interactions.
Alright, and now let's just jump into a quick fun segment. It's a quick game that we're gonna call Which One Went Viral. I'm going to read you 3 headlines, 2 of them are real and verified news, and 1 of them is fake and kind of ridiculous, like really non-relevant. So you're gonna have to see which one is fake and which one got the most engagement online. Ready?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so number 1, WHO, or the World Health Organization, announces programs of new malaria vaccine rollout across sub-Saharan Africa. Number 2, scientists discover new coral species thriving in previously damaged reefs. And number 3, NASA confirms Earth will go permanently dark for 3 days due to cosmic alignment. So which one do you think got the most engagement?
I'd say it sounds like the last one would like get more engagement, even though it sounds kind of fake.
Well, you are right. The first 2 I read, they are correct and very relevant, I would say. But they didn't get as much attention as the third one, which again got the most attention, but it was a fake news. It was it doesn't really exist, right? There's no blackout story. And it just goes to show how people, even if they don't necessarily believe it, just by engaging with it, it gives it a bigger platform than it was meant to have. And then it creates just more anger, more fear, more comments, and all of that turns into data through the process of datification. Alright, so first of all, thank you for participating. But now that wraps up our episode. We explored how datification affects misinformation, not just what we believe, but what we see, and how data shows that emotional reactions, especially negative ones, tend to have the higher impact, especially when it comes to fake content.
Yes, and our surveys and like our interviews, they both show the same thing, that people may be confident, but their digital behavior still affects and still teaches algorithms to push emotional and sometimes misleading content to be more shown.
Yeah, the takeaway here is that being responsible online isn't just about fact-checking. It's also about understanding how our reactions, again small or big, become data that shapes our digital world.
We'd love for you to participate. Take our survey or share in the comments an example of fake news that you've seen recently.
And that's pretty much about it for this episode, so thank you for tuning in to Connect Conversations. Until next time.